But today we're going to be talking more excuse me, about three things. First, the company Alibaba, the machinery that has made Alibaba this very impactful company on the world stage. The man behind it, Jack Ma, and actually the women too, because 6 of the 18 co-founders of Alibaba are women. And by the way, half of the co-founders of the company are still there. So it's a pretty interesting story. It puts Silicon Valley to shame, frankly, in terms of female empowerment. And really the meaning of the company. Why does this matter to all of us here? Of course, I guess most directly for you in the room in terms of cloud computing, Ali Cloud is becoming an increasingly large player. But I think there's benefit in understanding the whole picture of Ali as well. I have a few just images, no text, I just want to run through. And we want to spend as much time as possible with Camille fielding your questions. So this is impossible. An impossible triangle, but actually what Jack, the first chapter of the book, what Jack has described as the iron triangle is exactly the reason, the architecture of trust that has made Alibaba such a big thing in China today. The 3 sides of the triangle are e-commerce, logistics, and finance. E-commerce, Alibaba started out as a B2B website. It's still there, alibaba.com, and you can see that in English. It was in 1999, and I first met Jack just after he'd founded the company. I was in that apartment with the 18 co-founders, and there's a bit of a I'm an idiot introduction to the book because they gave me these shares. I worked with the company in the early years as a consultant. I've been based in China since '94 when I left Morgan Stanley. But the e-commerce website, the initial one, B2B, was okay. Jack is a very interesting character. We'll talk more about him. But the B2B thing was a little dull, and by 2003, it came time for me to exercise the warrant to buy the shares, and I didn't do it. And that turned out to be a $30 million mistake. So failure is always very interesting, and success is a bit boring, because of course. Anyway, so I'm the idiot who didn't do that. Hashtag loser, I guess Donald Trump would call me. But in 2003, just after I did not buy the shares, Alibaba launched Taobao.com. And this was really how they took on eBay. And people forget that eBay was already well established in China, had 90% of the emerging consumer e-commerce market. Amazon was also there and was investing. But Jack did something unusual, was that he made free a business model. He basically said to merchants in China, if you want to sell to consumers, we'll host your storefront for free. So actually, the Taobao.com website is still free, and there are today 9 million merchants, almost 10 million merchants on that website. And what they do is they sell billions of items. It could be a bottle of water, it could be a microphone, it could be clothing, and they can sell small quantities, large quantities. Some of them are actually stores, merchants operating, and others are individuals. A lot of individuals supplement their income, including government officials, students who know, or people with no income, people who are unemployed. So it's a major social force in China as well today. And Jack had basically grown up, look, he was born in 1964, so he's 52 now, but he grew up born between the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, pretty tough chronological neighborhood. But he was born in Hangzhou. Because of this tourism input, he was able to start walking up to foreigners, and he listened to the Voice of America, BBC, he read Tom Sawyer, he immersed himself in books, and he actually, his parents were actually storytellers. So one was a factory worker, one was a photographer, but they actually, at home, they would practice this traditional Chinese art form. Jack is an amazing storyteller. If he was on the floor right now, I mean, you might be reduced to tears. I've seen grown investors cry. He has this mesmerizing appeal. So his charisma is chapter 2, the Jack magic. Why do so many people flock to work with him, like those 18 people? 18 people, most of them had already worked for Jack in 2 previous ventures that had failed. So he has this ability to mobilize people. So what makes successful entrepreneurs is the ability to communicate and motivate people and keep them. Turned out, pen-pal relationship developed. Jack was invited to Australia by the Morleys. Ken Morley, the father, the socialist, ended up helping Jack financially. And eventually, leading up to helping him with an apartment, he bought him an apartment, which allowed Jack to become an entrepreneur for his own sake later on. But Jack struggled very badly in maths. He's an unusual tech entrepreneur. He got 1 out of 120 in the national exam. He had to do it 3 times before he squeaked into university. So he's not, Jeff Bezos went to Princeton. His parents were oil executives. Mark Zuckerberg famously, was at Harvard. Jack is not that. He got into this pretty, marginal. He's investing in Hollywood. And if you know Hollywood, it's West LA, right? The whole entertainment business is West LA. Where's the good Chinese food? East, San Gabriel Valley. So he's put Alibaba Pictures in Pasadena. This is like, nobody's in Pasadena. So he's changing Hollywood by getting them closer to better Chinese food, which is a good thing. He's in Seattle as well. Anyway, but I think where he is also very impactful, the book is available in English in the foyer, but it's coming out also in 12 different languages, which reflects the interest of developing countries in Alibaba. So AliExpress is a website where you can buy factory price stuff. And it's the #1 website in Russia, for example, for e-commerce. Russia doesn't make anything. And also, we're not trading with them too much anymore, but China's trading with them. Ukraine also, so we're even on that one. In Brazil, it's a leading website. Throughout Latin America. So we have all these languages coming out. Also here in Indonesia, neighboring in Indonesia, Bahasa Indonesia, Vietnam. Alibaba just 2 weeks ago invested $1 billion in a Southeast Asian e-commerce company called Lazada. So they, we think of Alibaba because we know them from Wall Street. It's the biggest IPO ever, 2014, $25 billion. We know them from their tech stuff. They're investing here. I should also add, they're an investor in Lyft, L-Y-F-T. You know that Uber, I think in San Francisco, I think Uber is less than 50% of the market share because Lyft is very popular. Something very interesting happened a few weeks ago. So Alibaba and its rival Tencent had invested together in a company called Didi. So Didi is killing Uber in China. So 80% of the market was this app called Didi. Didi actually is now the default app. When Chinese go to the United States, they get Lyft because Alibaba is an investor in Lyft. So suddenly you're beginning to see the chessboard of competition in China between Alibaba, Baidu, and Tencent, BAT we call them, the Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent, is beginning to have international implications. Uber is partnered with Baidu in China, so the others are ganging up and they're partnering with Uber's rivals in the US. So increasingly you can no longer look at China without saying, well, it's actually going to have some international implications. Also, the market is so huge, right? So I'm going to wrap up. Here's Jack with some other person. Alibaba is investing in new movies. Alibaba Pictures I mentioned. So this year you will see Star Trek, I'm sure, and within the first 2 seconds you'll see Alibaba Pictures. He's trying to bring the Hollywood-style content to China. I mean, literally bringing Hollywood movies, but also bringing formats. Jack says it's true. Actually, most Chinese movies, if you watch them, you end up sort of crying because the heroes all die. And Jack says, why don't we have a little bit more uplifting thing? So his 2 big strategies for the future are health and happiness. China has a terrible legacy of pollution. So I was coughing earlier. I've been there 20 years. But it also has, it needs more uplifting content. It needs, the middle classes don't just want stuff anymore. And the middle classes are 300-400 million. Increasingly, they want services, and then they want content, entertainment. Here's Jack with some other guy. And this was in 2007. So then Party Secretary of Shanghai, Xi Jinping, came to visit. So a big debate. The last chapter, I'm hedging my bets, Jack, the last chapter is called Icon or Icarus. Jack is an icon in China and increasingly in emerging markets and globally, in fact, for entrepreneurs. The nicest thing on my book tour was in the US, somebody came up, a Chinese lady said, I'm so happy that you've written a book which has a Chinese face or somebody like Jack on it. He's not, frankly, a white male in California. There's room now for global icons, I think, coming from China. But the relationship between the government and the private sector in China is very interesting. I mean, because increasingly Jack is going to finance, he's going into media and entertainment, and other areas where the state used to be in charge of everything. So the question is like a negotiated transfer, if you will. So there's wealth in Zhejiang and all these coastal provinces versus political power in Beijing. The Communist Party wants to stay in power, the economy is slowing, so how do they work with these entrepreneurs? Anyway, it's all in the book.